From age 12 to 30, the Gospels are silent. 18 years. No miracles. No teachings. No stories. What was Jesus doing during the hidden years, and why did God keep them hidden? Here's what we know for certain. Luke writes, "The child grew and became strong, he was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him." Then at age 12, Jesus amazed the temple teachers. And Luke ends with this: Jesus grew in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. That's it. That's everything Scripture tells us about 18 years. Luke gives us one window into these years. Jesus is 12. His family travels to Jerusalem for Passover. When they leave, Jesus stays behind. 3 days later, Mary and Joseph find him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening and asking questions. Everyone is amazed by his understanding. Mary says, "Son, why have you treated us like this?" And Jesus replies, "Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house?" Jesus grew in wisdom. Think about that. The eternal Word made flesh, fully God. And yet, he learned. He grew. He didn't arrive as an adult. He experienced childhood, adolescence. The incarnation means God entered human development, every awkward, ordinary, sacred stage of it. Nazareth. A tiny village in Galilee. Maybe 400 people. No one famous ever came from there. Jesus grew up learning Torah in the local synagogue. He worked alongside Joseph in the carpenter's shop. He celebrated festivals with his family. He lived an ordinary Jewish life. But traditions outside the Bible paint a very different picture of these years. Stories of miracles, supernatural events, even violence. Should we believe them? And why did the early church reject them? The Infancy Gospel of Thomas, written in the 2nd century, tells wild stories. Boy Jesus making clay sparrows that come to life. Striking a bully dead with a word. Cursing a teacher who corrects him. These stories weren't written by eyewitnesses. And the early church fathers rejected them, not because they feared the supernatural, but because they contradicted the character of Christ. What God chose to reveal matters. But what he chose to conceal matters just as much. The Gospel writers had access to Mary, to Jesus' brothers, to people who knew him as a child. They could have filled these years with stories. They didn't. The silence isn't a gap Luke failed to fill. It's a choice. Jesus was known as the carpenter's son. In 1st century Jewish culture, sons learned their father's trade. Joseph would have taught him to measure, cut, and join wood. To build yokes for oxen. Doors for homes. Tables for families. Jesus' hands, hands that would one day heal the blind and break bread for thousands, first held a hammer and saw. This wasn't symbolic labor. It was sweat, splinters, muscle aches, calloused palms. The Word made flesh didn't just visit humanity, he worked like us. For 30 years. Like every Jewish boy, Jesus attended synagogue. He memorized Torah. He learned the Psalms, the prophets, the stories of Abraham and Moses and David. When he later quoted Scripture in the wilderness, in the temple, in debates with Pharisees, he was drawing on years of study. Years of listening. Years of preparation. Jesus had brothers. James, Joseph, Simon, Judas. He had sisters. They ate meals together. Celebrated Passover. Observed Sabbath. Mary and Joseph taught him, corrected him, loved him. The Son of God experienced sibling rivalry. Chores. Family responsibilities. He wasn't exempt from the ordinary, he entered it fully. So why would God hide these years? 30 years of ordinary life, then just 3 years of miracles. What if the silence is the whole point? What if God is teaching us something in what he didn't say? 30 years hidden. 3 years public. Think about that ratio. The Son of God spent most of his earthly life in obscurity. Working, waiting, obeying his parents, serving customers in a workshop. God incarnate, living an ordinary life. Why? Because ordinary faithfulness glorifies God just as much as extraordinary ministry. Maybe more. Maybe you're in your hidden years right now. Working a job that feels insignificant. Waiting for your real purpose to start. Wondering if what you're doing matters. Jesus understands. He spent 30 years preparing for a 3-year ministry. He knows what it's like to wait. To work without applause. To be faithful when no one's watching. Your hidden years aren't wasted. They're worship. The incarnation means God entered all of human life. Not just the dignified parts. Jesus experienced puberty, growth spurts, voice changes, learning to shave, hormones, questions about his future, the awkwardness of adolescence. He struggled. He learned. He obeyed parents even when it was hard. Fully God, yes, but also fully human. Really, truly human. Here's what we know. Jesus grew. He learned. He worked. He obeyed. He waited. He prepared in obscurity. For 3 decades, the Messiah lived hidden in a tiny village no one cared about. And when the time came, he was ready. Not because the hidden years were wasted, but because they were exactly what God intended. The gift of the hidden years is this: your ordinary faithfulness matters. The work you do when no one's watching, God sees it. The years you spend waiting for your calling, God is preparing you. Jesus lived 30 years in obscurity before the miracles began. The hidden years weren't wasted. They were worship. If this episode blessed you, share it with someone in their hidden years. And subscribe for more biblical mysteries where ancient truth meets modern life.